Rescue teams expand their search for missing Malaysian jetliner. A Hong Kong woman among the missing passengers. And Russia tightens its grip on Crimea.
Good evening. Officials say the ill-fated Malaysia Airlines jetliner may have been trying to turn back to its point of origin when it vanished suddenly early yesterday. Rescue teams have now expanded their search for the missing plane, which was carrying more than 230 passengers and crew to Beijing. Authorities are also investigating reports of several passengers with suspicious identifications. Officials are checking closed-circuit TV footage of two of them, who are believed to have used stolen passports to board the plane.
Finding the missing Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777, which vanished suddenly while en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, is the top priority. Malaysian officials said today their military radar showed the jetliner could have been trying to turn back when it vanished.
We confirm that our search now has been extended to even wider areas because there is the possibility, we're looking at the possibility of an aircraft air turnback, in which case different locations will have to be identified.
Today, airline officials admitted that relatives of those on board should prepare for the worst, given there's been no contact with the plane. The already massive search and rescue operation has been expanded to include Southeast Asian nations, China and even the United States. Investigators believe whatever happened was sudden and catastrophic because the pilots didn't call for help, something which usually occurs when a plane is in distress. Apart from the possible turnback, other clues are emerging. Malaysian officials confirmed today that two passengers were travelling on stolen passports and hoped airport security footage would provide a better understanding.
We have the CCTV's recording of those passengers from check-in right to the departure point.
One passenger had falsely used an Italian passport, while another used a stolen Austrian document. Officials say they bought their tickets through China Southern Airlines, which had a code share on Flight 370 and were heading to Europe via Beijing. The real owners reportedly had their passports stolen in Thailand. Hussein said until authorities got to the bottom of this, they couldn't rule out foul play.
On the issue of the passports, I'm in touch with the international intelligence agencies. At the same time, our own intelligence has been activated. And of course, the counter-terrorism units, CTIs and CTUs, from all the relevant countries have been informed.
Flight MH370 with 239 passengers and crew, many of them from China, was about an hour into its flight when it disappeared from radar screens. It's thought to have come down somewhere in waters between the southern tip of Vietnam and Malaysia. Yesterday, Vietnamese planes reported two apparent oil slicks stretching several kilometres along the sea. But no debris was spotted, and without surface verification, it's hard for rescuers and investigators to infer a lot from this for now.
The Immigration Department confirmed today one of the passengers on the missing Malaysia Airlines flight is a Hong Kong resident. Evelina Leung has that story.
The Hong Kong resident who was on board the missing plane is a woman in her 40s or 50s. She became a local resident through the one-way permit scheme, which allows mainlanders to come to Hong Kong for family reunions. But the woman had been living on the mainland. The Immigration Department has already been in touch with her family in Beijing. Meanwhile, anxious and worried relatives of the other missing passengers continued to wait for news of their loved ones. The airline has arranged for them to stay in this hotel in Kuala Lumpur, where they met with Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak this afternoon. Some of the family members were unhappy with the airline's arrangements. Nothing has been updated, and all they do is tell us to wait, this person said. Sources say the airline will arrange for the families to wait at the airport, but so far nothing has been confirmed. When overseas media tried to speak with the families, they were stopped by the airline representatives.
Privacy, please.
In Beijing, the airline arranged for volunteers, including translators and psychologists, to help the missing passengers' families cope with the ordeal. Some of the families say they will be heading to Kuala Lumpur later on. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
In another civil aviation incident yesterday, 180 people were evacuated from an Indian jetliner in Nepal's capital after one of the plane's wheels caught on fire during landing. No one was injured. A right rear wheel of the Airbus A320 operated by Indigo caught fire while landing at Kathmandu's international airport following a flight from New Delhi. Passengers and the flight crew were safely evacuated through emergency chutes. The flames were quickly put out by workers on the ground. Officials are investigating the incident and the aircraft has been grounded for inspection.
Well, North Koreans went to the polling stations today to approve a new national legislature. The vote for the Supreme People's Assembly is the first in 5 years and the first under leader Kim Jong-un. Last elections were held in March 2009, when 687 deputies were elected to the Assembly. It's the most powerful body under North Korea's constitution, but in reality has very little political power. Instead of choosing who they support, voters are given the choice of a yes or no for the single candidate on their ballot. Outside observers say this makes elections in North Korea an opportunity for authorities to check up on the population and tighten control. Well, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton is in Iran, meeting her Iranian counterparts and other senior officials. The landmark visit comes after an invitation from Iran's foreign minister, marking a thaw in relations since the beginning of the year. Iran wants Western and UN sanctions that are hurting its economy to be lifted. The country won limited relief in exchange for curbing its most sensitive nuclear work under the 6-month Geneva deal, which took effect on January the 20th.
A North Korean flagged tanker has started loading oil at an eastern Libyan port seized by rebels. The Libyan government has threatened to bomb the vessel if it tries to ship the cargo out of Es-Sider port. The rebels want to sell the oil to bypass the government and get a greater share of the country's oil wealth. The rebels have seized 3 major Libyan ports since August to press their demands for more autonomy. They've warned Tripoli against staging an attack to halt the oil sale. The government of the North African OPEC member is struggling to control armed militias who helped topple Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, but now challenge state authority. And still ahead in our news tonight, another protest against mainland tourists. The Democratic Party to sue the police. And senior citizens warned of the danger of certain painkillers.